Okay, I think I flubbed again. Anyway, welcome back to another live stream. We're going to be solving some chess studies, and the idea with the chess studies is that a chess composer made this position up to demonstrate an idea. They used the least possible number of pieces possible, and in each of the studies we're looking at today, our goal is to get the best possible result. So, I have 4 warm-up puzzles that are all king and pawn endgames with just a couple of pieces on the board, just to get us fresh and awake before we do the harder ones, and I have 7 harder ones. I haven't solved any of them ahead of time. I just set them aside at some point in the past and said, hey, I'm going to solve them one day, and here we are. We're going to solve them. So, this first one's white to play. If I'm not mistaken, all the puzzles that I picked are white to play today. So, I guess I'll start trying to solve this, and you guys can feel free to just call out in the chat whatever you think the answer might be. It's a group study session, and I'm hoping to learn something too. So let's see. White doesn't look to be doing super well here, so this could be a puzzle where we have to draw. The reason I think that white is not doing very well is that this guy, big man, the king, is in the corner, and it's not an area that is especially relevant right now. So I'm guessing that we will have to try to follow the black king. Like, black is going to at some point try to come over here and take this pawn, and we have to follow them in, try to trap them, or at least make them give up this pawn. So we have to be precise in how we do this, I'm guessing. Well, since I only have 3 legal moves, I would probably try to eliminate the pawn moves just to double check if my king g8 move is truly good. So I'm thinking that if I play h4, and I'll draw arrows to explain, they will probably play king to f5, and then I can only play a move like, I don't know, king g7. They'll probably come here, and I could play maybe, trying to make some meaningful arrows here, king f6, and after the simple move king takes h4, I can run over here and try to block the king, but I'm like 4 moves too short to actually accomplish that. They'll just play king g3, and this pawn will become a queen. So h4 is ruled out. h3 looks very similar, because if we play h3, and I'll just do this quickly because it's like the same, king g5, king g7, king h4, king f6, king takes h3, king f5, and we're way out of line. It's just not happening. So I think king g8 is a forced first move. There's no other move to play. So we have to do this one. Now black can do a couple things. They can try to improve this pawn, or they can try to come in with the king in multiple ways. So I'm wondering which they will choose. I think it would probably be easier to analyze the straightforward path, which is king g5. So let's pretend they play king g5. I guess king f8 and king h8 make no sense, and neither does sacrificing the h-pawn. So I would play king g7. There might be some difference with king f7, but I doubt it. Let's pretend king g7 for now. I guess if they want to win this pawn, they could just go for it with king h4. And so we could then play king h6. And the idea is that if they play king h3, we play king takes h5, and we get a draw. So I think king to h6 is very strong. And after a move like king g4, we could maybe even force the issue by playing h3 check. They would have to take it or play king h4, and either way we could play either king g6 or king takes h5. So I'm guessing this is the correct answer for our first warm-up puzzle. I'll play it on the board. Well, actually maybe we should first analyze if they push the pawn. we could play king g8 and h4. Now here we could either play a king move or a pawn move. I think a pawn move might be more foolish, because if we play h3, we kind of transpose to a very similar scenario, because after like king g5, king g7, king f4, hold on, king h6. I think that actually maybe this is not so bad, because they have to play king g3 if they want to take the pawn, and then we can play king takes. Oh no, the pawn's on h4. See, this is why I have to do these puzzles. I'm getting rusty and not seeing things properly. King h6 doesn't attack the pawn. So they would play king g3 at some point and protect their pawn and take our pawn. So I think h3 is bad. So king g8, king g5. Oh no, sorry, we're talking about h4 now. So probably I would just have to time pass, like play king f8. And if you keep playing like this, I'm going to try to sneak around. And now there's some good drawing chance. Because with this black pawn so far advanced on h3, if they ever go like this and take the pawn, if we can somehow get our king to f2, it would become an instant draw, because their king is stuck on the edge of the board. So I think this is somewhere along the right track. I'll check this with the computer afterwards. But the two lines I calculated to make my decision were king g5, king g7, king h4, king g6. And I saw that this is a draw. Hi, Yeater Master, welcome. Doing some studies. Feel free to just shout out your input. The other line I looked at already was h4, h3, and implicitly I looked at this line. Which is a draw. Yeah, welcome. I just joined also. we just started very recently. I keep flubbing the go live thing. Like somehow I get tricked. Like in the YouTube studio thing, I click go live and then it looks like it did the right thing and I'm like, yay. And then I go to live chess and then I'm not live. It like really tricks me every single time. Okay, so let's just check this with the local computer. The Lichess website has access to some kind of table base, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll just click this. Oh, maybe I can show you guys what it says. Hold on. All right, let's see what it says. All right, it says king g8 draw. That's a relief. You guys can see it in the box. It says h4 is a draw because after king f8, the only move for a draw. Nice. h3, king e7, king f5 they chose. I chose king g5, but it's the same. This was the only move for a draw. Oh, and then they go to d3. Interesting. I was thinking just king f3. And we go to Drawsville. But this is kind of showing that the idea was correct. Like if they play king to, sorry. If they play king to d3, king b4, king c2, king a3, king b1, it's just this kind of draw. It's just a more passive version for black. They're not even trying to take the pawn. So h4 is a draw, and king g5, the main line, is also a draw. So this is a study solution success, but this is a very easy one. It's a warm-up. So if anyone has questions, we can always come back to it, but let's go to warm-up number 2 while we wait for more people to join in. This is white to play. Oh, I accidentally showed the thing. I didn't read it, but it was there. Okay, how do I get rid of that? There we go. Okay, I'll have to be more careful next time. So it's white to play. And again, it looks like we're fighting for a draw. By the way, guys, I'm going to have to get up to take some bread out of the oven in 14 minutes and 22 seconds. Okay, so we're trying to get a draw, right? Because it seems very unlikely that we can win just like that. Like, if we play c7, they play king b7, and we probably lose the game. Anyway, so I didn't really check it. It's just not good. Like, why would I give up the pawn? So the trick here is that if we play moves to just go get in front of the pawn, if we're like, yay, king g6, woo, and then they go there, and then we go here, right? You can see we're always one step behind. This is because of that famous square rule. Square rule is that if you draw, all right, the way I like to teach square rule is that you draw a diagonal line to the edge of the board, and then you make it an equilateral triangle, and then you fill in to make it a square. The reason I do it like this is that young kids sometimes have a really hard time like imagining a square. They like hit squares and rectangles confused. But right triangle, kids always get that right. They never get it wrong. So I like to do the two right triangles. And so if your king is able to get in the box on their turn, they are able to catch the pawn. That doesn't mean it's an automatic draw. It just means that the king can catch the pawn if the pawn starts running. Now, this position would be dead lost if we didn't have a c6 pawn. I'm pretty confident I know the answer here. The idea is that we should start running, like they'll run too. We love running. And at the critical moment, we will threaten to promote our pawn. So let me decide, is it right now? Like king e6, a2, c7, king b7, king d7, draw. Yeah, that's correct, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think this is just it. So it'd be like king g6. By the way, Eater Master, I don't play moves as I go. I finish the calculation and then play moves. That's how you should always be solving your puzzles. Okay, so if they play a3, my idea was king e6. If they play a2, it's precise to play c7, threatening to promote with check, to draw them in, and then we are going to promote with check no matter what they do. And that's a draw. So this is, I believe, called a ready maneuver, because you can steal a tempo with the threat of coming to promote the pawn. In this position, I think black's most aggressive move is probably king b6. And in this case, we steal that extra move that we needed. And if you're worried about being down a pawn, fear not, it's a rook pawn. Stalemate, yahoo, awesome. All right, now just to check with the engine, I'll turn it back on. Okay, let's see. Drawn with king g6, it says. It gives lines for king a7, king b6, and a4. I think king a7 is an irrelevant line, so let's check out this one. King f5, a3, king e6 only move to draw. So this proves the point. That was correct analysis. So that was a good warm-up number 2. Let's do warm-up number 3. Get rid of this. All right. On to the next one. Okay. We're almost done with our simple studies. This one's white to play. And I think since we both have passed pawns, it's a little ambiguous if we are going for a win or a draw. Because it's our move. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 moves to promote. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 moves to promote. And our king's in the way. So we're going to promote second. We're not promoting with check unless we can make them do something with the king. We could maybe stop them from promoting, but I kind of doubt that as well. I just have a bad feeling about king d4. They can also run back to try to stop our pawn, which could be very uncomfortable. So this is much more complicated than the previous two. So what should it be? I guess the candidate moves are... I mostly am thinking about moves that are in these directions, but these are, of course, also candidate moves. They're just not my primary candidates, because usually a multi-purpose move is better. I'd like to go closer to black pawns if I could, but there's also risk, because if you go close to the black pawns, they can start promoting with check, things like that. So I guess I'll just think about this most obvious move, king d4. Eater Master, that's not a solution. That's just an idea. And in this case, I think it loses, because after king d4, Well, first of all, like the square is huge, right? Black king's totally in the square. So if they can just get like a couple moves, they can play like b4 and a5 and then bring their king back and win the pawn. And that's winning for black because you can never take the a5 pawn. So, like, let's say we do king d4, right? I'm not sure how black should start, with a king move or with a pawn move. I think maybe it's just super simple to play king b6. Because this pawn structure is, like, winning, right? For example, if I play e5, they even have an extra move, but let's pretend that they do something like king c6. And then you do e6, and then we do... Well, you already lose the pawn after king d6, so you would need to play... Actually, there's just nothing to play here. I think king b6 just beats king d4. You're not even going to see promotion. So we probably have to stop them from getting over here. Now, we don't have to control all these squares, because if we can play e7 fast, we control the d8 square. So we probably have to play king d6. Like king d6, king b6 is obviously a big fail. They can't even play king c7. Welcome to Dant. What do you mean you forgot about the stream? You're here, so did you really forget? I just started like very recently. We're doing warm-ups, so we haven't even gotten to the hard, tricky stuff. King d6, I guess they'll play b4, e5, b3, e6, b2, e7, b1, queen, e8, queen, and that's a draw. The reason I'm not making any king moves here is that they don't have any useful king moves. Like, we're not stopping the pawn. We're just making a draw. I think this is it. And to post my... there's no useful checks here. So I think definitely a draw. The refutation for king d4, which made me decide on king d6, that I saw was just king b6. Because if you play e5, king c6, e6, you just lose the pawn, and these pawns are super strong by themselves. And after king b6, I think it's already too late. Because after king b6, if you play king d5, first of all, I might have time. Let me see. Maybe I can play b4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I think king c7 is better. Now if you play e5, king d7, you're totally busted. For instance, if you play like this, I'll just keep making moves over here, and you'll just keep making crop circles. I think b4 might not win Yeeter Master, but let's just check it. I was suspicious because it's not necessary. b4, this gives an extra tempo to play e5. Yeah, actually it does win because you can play king c7. And if they play e6, we play king d8, and that's perfectly fine. If they play this, we play a5. Full refutation of their play. Okay, so let's turn on the computer and double check our answer. King f6 is the only move for a draw. Okay, now before we check out why king d6 is losing, let's try to solve it ourselves. That is astounding, though, that king d6 loses. Why? Maybe in the final position we missed a tactic. Queen b6 check. Terrible. I just noticed it. Oh, and it's also here, so my bad, but queen b6 is annoying. The reason is that we don't have any move with the king that avoids a queen trade. Like if we play king d5, queen b5 forces the queens off, and this is a winning king and pawn endgame. So that was a mistake, and very annoying to make. I think that shows a bias for me, that I usually strongly consider the moves that are towards the pawns, even if it's not good. And I did not strong enough consider king f6. But how does king f6 draw? Let's figure that out. King f6, king b6, e5. This is like losing, right? Black will just push the pawns. So that can't be right. King b6. Maybe we're like winning a tempo somehow. Hi Shy, welcome. Good to see you. Shy goes way back before all your time, all you guys. And Shy's a good chess player. Always welcome here. So let's see, after king b6, I think that we just have to play a timely king f7. That's probably it. Like right here. Yeah, and after king d8, it's just bad, because they're going to promote with check. So, that was my bad. King d6 was a blunder. Let's just write that in. Blunder. Best move, king f6. And we'll make that the main line. Okay, cool. So, warm-up 3, we flubbed it. Or I flubbed it, since you guys aren't telling me any moves. Ari, welcome. This one is white to play as well. I'll just leave that box there with the moves. So, what do you guys think? White to play. Seems pretty clear we're trying to hold a draw. And it looks like an opposition kind of puzzle. The reason that there's drawing chances is that they have to at some point play g5 to create a pass h-pawn, but as we know, h-pawns make a draw very often. Their other idea, of course, is to just win the h-pawn, but if we can prevent them from ever reaching there, then yeah, we need to make a draw. I don't think white is playing for a win. By the way, guys, in 2 minutes I have to take bread out of the oven, so it'll be all up to you guys at that point. Vedant, why are you asking the URL? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so they want to play like just king f5, king g4, take the pawn. That's their idea, right? So we want it to be that when they are on f5, we're on f3, because that prevents king g4, and if they play king e5, we can play king e3, and do that until we get sick. Now, if they play king e5, we want to be on e3. So this is immediately suggesting that I want to play king f2. No, I'm not going to share the study, sorry. I don't want people like peeking at answers or anything like that. I think it's just king f2. So what could possibly go wrong? I think nothing can go wrong with king f2. So I'm going to play it like this. Drawsville. Drawsville. And king f6 we play... Alright, maybe king f6 is a challenge. It's like not a big challenge, but... I think king g3 is too committal because they play king e5 with diagonal opposition, like this. So it must be king e3, but then they play king e5. So we don't want either of those. We want to play king e2. So if they play king e6, we go back. I accidentally played king e6, but I may as well explain. And if they play king e5, we play king e3. And if they play king f5, we play king f3. Yeater Master, where do you mean king f3? King f3, king f5. No, king f3 should not work as move 1. Because if you play king f3, they will play king f5 with opposition. And now we have to give up vital territory. The most obvious... Oop, bread's done. The most obvious losing move is king e3 because of king g4. And if we play king g3, they will play... I think king e4 and king e5 win. Yeah, this is probably the simplest one. Because after like king g2 trying to take the opposition, we just outflank. Like king f4 coming over to get the pawn. So you say no, and I say no, I insist, and you say stop that, I say you meanie, and then we take the pawn. Okay, guys. So I'm going to leave you with the first puzzle while I take the bread out of the oven. It'll take me like 30 seconds. So this is the first legit puzzle, okay? This one is white to play. I'll be back very, very soon. I'm back. Alright, sorry about that, guys. What happened here? Yeah, I know, right? Welcome, Invincible Insights. I hope you can give us some of those Invincible Insights that are your namesake. This position's a mess because some human went around and set up chess pieces on the board. If it happened in a real game, I'm sure it would be much nicer. But here we are with white to play, and we need to somehow win, draw? Hard to tell because I don't even know the answer. I just picked some positions that look very interesting that I didn't know the answer to study. I do feel like checkmate could happen though. Yeah, I took some bread out of the oven, and that's not a euphemism. I actually baked bread, and I had to take it out before it went flames. So their king is kind of trapped. So let's see. Yeatermaster says bishop d6. What's your idea with bishop d6? Okay, and Vedant's also saying it. Not sure about it. Like, what does bishop d6 threaten? Maybe I just don't understand. You guys might be, like, on another level from me right now. Hypothetically, we at least have to control... Well, we have to control this square and give a check to win the game. So that's kind of tricky. I think a draw is too easy, and that's why I'm thinking it's not a draw puzzle. Because for a draw, we could just, like... take this pawn, and then sacrifice for this pawn. Or just, like, trap their king. All those moves are draws. Vedant, bishop d6. How does bishop d6 trap the king? I don't get it. Okay, well, one interesting thing about the position is they can only play this, or this, or this, or this. These are the only moves they can play. So maybe it's like a Zugzwang idea. It seems like that's where you guys are going with this, right? Trying to, like, trap their king. Maybe bishop d5 is what you meant, because bishop d6 doesn't trap anything. So bishop d5 is a candidate move. Because this would make them play a pawn move. And if they play h1, queen, check, we have to take it. And then after that, they would play probably king a2. And I don't know. I guess we're actually losing there. Well, not losing, but losing our chance. If we play bishop d5, h1 queen, bishop takes h1, king a2, I think it's not good. Because they're going to promote the b pawn, and we'll have to sacrifice our light bishop for it. So our winning chances will go away. We're not going to win this with one dark bishop. Vedant, how do you play h6 in this position? I don't know what you mean. I'm, like, really confused by your variation. I think the answer is, I think we should play bishop h1. This is coming to my mind first. I'll play the variation on the board just to be nice for, like, why I don't like bishop d5. They'll sack for a queen and then play this. And it's not clear to me how we are stopping them from promoting. Hi, Austin. Good to see you. It's been a long time. Okay, so Vedant, I think you missed the counterplay with h1. So let's actually look at bishop h1, unless you have some kind of really compelling idea. Bishop h1, I think now they have to play king a2 or move the pawn, right? But if they play king a2, we get bishop d5 with check. So that might be useful somehow. Okay, I don't know. Maybe I'm just confusing everything. So let's be a little more clear. So there's bishop d5, that's an idea. There's bishop h1. Yeatermaster, what was your line? Bishop d6, king a2, bishop d5, king b1, bishop b4. I don't know what it does. It just looks like you're letting them... Bishop b4. What's the point with bishop b4? You want to just take the pawn on d2 or something? You could have taken it with the king. So you're saying bishop d6, king a2, bishop d5 with check, reasonable. Sorry, king back. And then bishop to b4. I mean, it's not like you're threatening checkmate or anything. To stop the b pawn from moving. Okay. But it can still play b6 or b5. You know the b pawn's coming down the board, right? Like, they're threatening these moves. They want to promote on the first rank guys. Okay, I'm seeing your other ideas. I don't know why you guys are in love with bishop d6, actually. I think if you want to restrict their pawn moves, then bishop h1 makes a lot more sense. Alright, I'm going to brainstorm. You guys can definitely write whatever you're thinking in the chat, but I'm going to just quietly think about this, because if I keep talking, I won't ever figure it out. I think taking the pawn on h2 is maybe simple to refute, Vedant. Bishop h2, king a2. I guess if you are trying to stop them from promoting, you would play bishop d5 check, king to a3, bishop d6 check because the promotion threat is there again, king to a4, and then maybe king c2, something like that. But we also have to checkmate them, right? If the king is running out, we're probably getting a draw. Alright, Invincible Insights says king takes d2. King takes d2. I think they'll play the move king a2. And they're threatening b1 queen, so you would probably have to start checking them, right? Because if you play bishop to e4, then they'll just promote. And then they'll take your bishop on the next move with the king. So you'd have to start checking. You'd play bishop d5 check, king a3, bishop d6 check, king a4, and you kind of just don't have any more checks. You can stop their promotion, but now that the king's out in the open, we're not going to win the game. And the reason I think this is a checkmate puzzle is that there's many ways to make a draw. Like, we could just take any of the pawns. King d2 draw, king h2 draw, bishop b7 draw. They're all a draw, right? Even just sitting here and doing nothing is a draw because they can't move, right? Bishop d5 is also some kind of draw, I'm sure. Toivagoa, hello, welcome. This is not a dead draw, no way. I strongly feel there should be a checkmate. So I'm going to think about it since you are calling it a dead draw. Sounds like you gave up already. I'm not giving up. Okay. So what's going on here? I have a feeling that I know what checkmate looks like in this position. Like, imagine if we could make them push this pawn all the way here, right? Their king would become very restricted, right? It would be even more crazy if we could make them take somewhere along the way. Like, if they take like this and then come down here, we would play bishop to e4, checkmate. And since they're like totally in Zugzwang, that makes sense. So we need them to have the b-pawn. Also, if you're in the psychology of the chess composer, you know that every single piece on the board has a purpose. People don't make a study where they have extra pawns and extra pieces. There's a reason for everything here, including the silly bishop on a1. Okay, so bishop, let's say bishop to h1. This is my primary idea. I'll just play it so you can see. Primary idea right now. Let's say they play like b5, which is probably not that good. can play... Actually, maybe we should force them to make certain pawn moves. Like, instead of blocking... Vedant, what's the answer if you have it? Take the D pawn. Okay, king takes D2. Yeah, that's correct, Invisible Insights. We would have to eliminate all other moves. That's why I was thinking bishop H1. Maybe we should play bishop D5 first to... What's the purpose of the H2 pawn? Is to restrict the mobility of this bishop, probably. But if we knew the purpose of every piece, we would already know the answer. So... I don't think king takes D2 is the move. It's like a very obvious move. Alright, so let's pretend we don't want them to move the king. We want them to make only pawn moves, like this. And, okay, they promote. I had a big problem with this before, but maybe there's a way that we can force them to go back to their hiding place, like this. No, I'm just not feeling it. Like, there's no checkmate coming here. So it's probably not that. Alright, so Vedant says we want the white king on b3, the dark bishop on f4, and the light bishop on d5. They would still play king c1 though, right? It's not checkmate. Where's the easy checkmate though? I don't see any check after king to c1 in the position that you're describing. Alright, maybe we're thinking the wrong direction. Maybe it's too complicated to like think about all this Zugzwang stuff. Is there any downside for king a2? Like, maybe that's the problem. Maybe if we let them play king to a2, it's actually fine. Like, imagine if it was black to play and they play king a2. Is there some way that we could, like, arrange king c2? Invincible Insights, that's an interesting idea, but the problem is then we have no piece to give a check. So we would want them to take the dark square bishop if we are going to use this idea. I don't think it's a draw, Vedant, and I'm not going to accept it as a draw. Because there's too many ways to draw. It's definitely not going to happen. Don't give up so easily. Maybe bishop d5 is pretty promising as a first move because it forces them to play h1 queen or a b pawn move. I just don't understand. Like, after h1 queen, bishop takes h1, king a2. I don't see how we can stop them from promoting. And I don't think there's any checkmate if we play like bishop takes b2. Yeah, this just can't be a draw. Their king's trapped, we have two bishops. It's almost Zugzwang. It's a study. We know there's some kind of solution that's not like stupid draw. Stupid draw is what we can do in any study, almost. Like, all the time in these studies, the position looks totally crazy, and so you would instantly think, okay, it's a draw, but it's not. They find some clever way. Yeah, we need to make them play this b pawn move, but how do we stop king a2 and also make them push the b pawn? All right, let's say it's, I don't think it's bishop h2 either, because bishop h2, king a2, it's not, there's no difference. Because they would play like bishop d5 check, king a3, bishop d6 check, king a4. Once the king gets to a4, there's like no chance that we're going to win this game. I just don't feel it. It's not there. Sorry guys, just fiddling with YouTube. Alright, so bishop d6, king a2, bishop d5, king b1, bishop takes h2. But why would they go to b1? Like, king a3 was the troubling move this whole time. Oh, because bishop d6, right? Okay. This is a crazy position. Maybe bishop d6 has some sense then. Bishop d6, king a2, bishop d5, king b1. You steal a lot of tempo that way. Okay, so that might make them push the b pawn. So you could be onto something. Maybe bishop d6 is strong. It's very subtle though. I didn't understand it when you said before. So the idea that we're showing is that we can check them back into their little hiding spot, and then if we take this pawn, they can only play the b pawn moves. Now we just have to look out for stalemate. Okay, so that's a nice idea, but we're not going to just play the moves. We have to figure it out. So bishop d6. Let's pretend that they push the b pawn directly, because I think that just giving up this h2 pawn is too simple. I think it's better for black to try to keep the h2 pawn, so that if you do something very committal with your dark bishop, or with your light bishop, then they can promote to a queen with check. So it's better for them not to give it for free, but that's a nice idea that they can't play king a2 because of bishop d6. Very unintuitive to me. So bishop d6, they would probably play a move like b6. And I suppose we could play... That's what you were saying, but you never said it, so I didn't understand. It would be nice if you guys explained your moves. Let's see. If they play b6, what are we going to do? Bishop h1 maybe now? Because if we play bishop h1 now, they have to, again, step with the b pawn. Because if they play king a2, it's the same tactic. Bishop d5 check, king b1, bishop takes h2. So they'll probably play b5. What do we do when they get to b3? Like, that was our idea, but how do we actually win the game? So let's say that we make them go all the way. Like, our bishops are just anywhere reasonable. Like, the light bishop controls h1, dark bishop is somewhere out there. Their pawn gets on b3. Where's the mate? I'm not sure. Yeah, we would like to get it to go on the A file. I think that makes some sense. But how do we actually make them do it? Because even if we give them the option to take, they will probably just keep pushing. So let's pretend that it was like bishop d6, b6, bishop h1, b5. And now we want to give them the option to take our dark square bishop. So we play, for example, bishop to e7, okay? And then they play b4. I'm still just not seeing it. Maybe not bishop e7. Maybe instead... okay, maybe instead, after b5, we play bishop b4. So they can't move the pawn. They have to play king a2. We play bishop d5 check. king back to b1, and then we play Vedant, you check the analysis? Oh, that's annoying. Come on, don't do stuff like that. Checking the analysis is how you end up just not learning anything, ever. You can stay like 1100 for your whole life. Okay, so we block them, they play king a2, we check, they go back, and then we can unblock them. It's like Facebook. We just block them and unblock them over and over again. We could play like... this. Okay, so bishop a3 is what Invincible Insights is saying. Okay, so you play bishop a3. They play... they would play b4. Forced move. But how do we stop them from playing just pawn b3? Like if we play... let's say we play bishop back to b1. Hold on. Trying to make the colors a little better. So we go bishop back to b1. I'm sorry, h1. And then they play... alright, I think I'm just making these colors bad again. Alright, so it's yellow again. Okay, they play bishop back to h1. And then we play pawn to b3. With the bishop on a3. I just don't see how the mate's going to happen. Eatermaster, I think I might have missed your line. Let me read it. So it's bishop d6. I'll play it on the board just because we're getting a little tied up here. b5, maybe not the most resilient move, but okay. Bishop e4 check, king a2. Bishop d5 check, king b1. Bishop takes h2. Okay, and then they play b4. And you want to play bishop b3, stalemate? No. Okay. So we would want to play like, I don't know. Vedant, I don't know what you're talking about. Could you tell me some moves? Like, what's your you said you want to do a light square blockade. That's why I was thinking bishop h1. It's like blockading on the light squares. But bishop g3. What's the idea of bishop g3? If you sacrifice on e1, then their king will come out on c1. Maybe we could checkmate this way, actually. Maybe you're right. So in this position, we would play something like bishop g3, b3, only move. But then they can play king a2. So the timing is off. We would want to have the bishop on e1 when they play b3, so we can play bishop takes b3 and make them take it. But then anyway, we can't checkmate with one bishop. So yeah, it doesn't quite work. Interesting idea though. Bishop d6 seems really good though. I'm wondering when Vedant's gonna tell us a move. Like he said he got it and then he didn't tell us any moves. I don't know how the king is going to come on c1 if your bishop's on f4. I mean, I just don't see how it's going to happen. I don't really get your idea. I need a variation. I don't speak hand waving. Okay, so do we have a forced way of taking this H pawn? Because if we have a forced variation that wins the H pawn, it just might help. Because the way we can make them take our dark squared bishop is if we have our bishop here. No, not here. If we have our bishop right here on b3, they have their pawn on b5, and this bishop is on a3. Because they would play... Alright, and let's pretend there's no pawn. They would play b4. We could play king takes d2. They would play pawn takes a3. We play 2 bishop moves, and they lose. So this is our target position. We want this bishop right here. We want this bishop right here. And we want this pawn right here at the moment that that happens. And we want this pawn to be gone. So first thing, how do we win the h-pawn without letting their king escape? So we play maybe bishop d6, because that was really great before. And they play like b6, saying, what do you do? We play maybe bishop a3, because that gets us to where we want to be. They play b5. Maybe we don't need to take this h-pawn, actually. Maybe we just need to blockade it. They play b5. No, it's not working. The bishop needs to be on b3. That's why we need to take it. Maybe we could like take this pawn so when they take, it's not check. And then we could do a checkmate. But then we can't make them take the bishop. So I think we really need to win it. So it's not this. Bishop d6, b6 still makes sense. No, I don't think bishop d6 is good. It's too slow. Like bishop d6, they'll play b5, and then immediately they're going to get b4 and b3 in. So it's not bishop d6. So it must be bishop d5 then. No, because bishop d5, we figured out a problem with that too. Bishop d5, they play h1 queen. It's not that nothing works. We just need to figure it out. It's just difficult. It's just a very challenging puzzle. Vedant sounds like he's gripped with despair. He's like, nothing works, no. Not telling any variations, just saying all is lost, all is lost. Okay, I think bishop d6 is the only move that stops king a2. So it's bishop d6 first. They play b5. Bishop b4, controlling the pawn. Maybe bishop b4. Now they would have to play either h1 or king a2. Vedant, that's a nice idea, but the problem is that when they play b4, we want them to have to take the bishop on a3. Because if we don't force them to, they will play b3. And that's not good. Unless we have some kind of miracle way of getting around that. But I think b3 helps them build a fortress. Like, after pawn b3, they're going to be able to play king to a2 safely. And that's the problem. I understand your idea, but I just don't think it works. Because if you play bishop... Like, let's say you play b5, bishop b4, king a2. Maybe if it comes with tempo, it works. So let's just check this out. King to a2, bishop d5 check. Okay, they have to go back. Now in this position, if we play bishop a3 now, and they play b4, and we play bishop b3, they'll play h1 queen. So that's not good. So we need to somehow make them give up this pawn. So we want to stalemate them, actually. So after this, hold on, we have bishop d5, king b1. How do we stalemate them? Is it already stalemate? Like, we play king d2, and then they can only play this move, h1 queen. But then the trouble is we have to take it, and it's like 100% stalemate. No, we should do it when the pawn is on b4, maybe. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if it's a problem that we can't take the h-pawn. If it's Zugzwang, we can make them play h1. If we make them play h1, we should be able to get something together. So the king's on b1, bishops are here. Yeah, this is way more complex, but chess is like that, and that's one of the nice things about chess. We have the possibility of these complex, really weird puzzles. The weirdest puzzle I ever saw, I just can't even remember the position. It was such an amazing puzzle. It was a situation, hello Melee please. It was a situation where we have like opposite colored bishops, and there's like 4 pawns on the G file. And then the solution is to promote to a second bishop of the same color to make it Zugzwang. And it was such a wild puzzle. I've never seen it anywhere ever again, and I really am sad that I don't remember the position, because it's one of my favorite puzzles that I ever saw. Anyway, maybe Melee please can help us out with this puzzle. It's very challenging. And I'm already rusty as it is right now, so we'll need all the help we can get. Right now we're at the position where we played bishop d6. If they play king a2, we play bishop d5, king b1, and bishop takes h2, so that's why they have to play b5. Next we play bishop b4, blockading them, so they have to play king a2. We play bishop d5 check, they play king b1. It's not a draw, for sure. I almost want to just show you guys that it's not a draw, like with the computer, because you guys are crying draw so much. This is the start position, and it's white to play. I think it's a checkmate puzzle, that's correct, because there's like many ways to make a draw here. In a study, there's just one solution. That's another nice thing about studies. The solution's always unique. You can't have more than one way to win or draw. There's always a single path to the best result. Sorry, 1 second, you guys. Sorry, I had to send a message. There's like lots of ways to force him to promote to a queen and bully us. Alright, so after king takes d2, they have to play h1 queen. So it'd be like bishop d6, king b5, bishop b4, king a2, bishop d5, king b1, king takes d2, h1 queen. Maybe in this position there's a resource. I'm not seeing it. So, Melee, please, are you saying bishop takes h2? Because bishop takes h2, they'll play king a2, and then there's definitely not going to be any checkmate, right? Just not going to happen. Alright, let's play a couple moves on the board, because it's tricky. Yeah, maybe king c2. Maybe you're onto something. So let's play a couple moves just so that we can have the satisfaction of making a couple moves. This is what we calculated, and this was our main line. We want, I think you meant bishop e4 check, right? Like bishop e4 check, king a2, king c2, something like this. Oh, but then they just promote to a queen, so that's not good. They play b1 queen with check, and then we definitely won't win. So, alright, Vedant, what is it? What's the answer? He said he's sure. So here we are, back at the beginning. What's your answer? Your sureness. Is 2 bishops versus 1 bishop winning? No. It's not. It's a draw. Unless you can, like, win on the spot. King takes d2, they'll play king e2. Previous position? Like, where? Here? So king takes d2. Okay. And they make a queen. Oh. If they make a queen, it's not stalemate. Actually, here they can only make a queen, and it's not stalemate. So this is actually very compelling. They have to play this. We check them. They go back. This is it. After bishop a3, b4, bishop b3, they take. We play any bishop move on the planet, and then checkmate. That's the answer. I just realized. Because when I visualized this position ahead of time, I said, okay, they make a queen, we have to take it, and it's stalemate. But it's not stalemate. They can play king a2. Awesome. I'm pretty sure this is it. So I'm going to promote this to the main line. Let's check it out. I'm about to be so disappointed. I'm ready for it. Engine's showing draw. Actually, the light chess computer is not strong enough to understand. Probably. Hold on. Saying make a queen, but it says king a2 is also a draw. Wow, the light chess computer doesn't get it until this move. Like the whole time is like 0, 0, 0, but it also agrees on the best moves for black. So this was all 4 sequence, but only now it's showing mate in 3. Like, can you guys see this? Hold on. I'm gonna cover my face. All right, look. So the engine says this position is equal. White has to play bishop f3. But after bishop a3, it shows mate in 3 directly. That's so funny. I mean, I knew Light Chess Computer was really bad, but I didn't know it was this bad that it can't spot a mate in 4 um, like that. Super bad. They gotta get like some Leela Chess Cloud engine or something. Anyway, donate to Light Chess so they can afford a real engine. Vedant, you said you got it? You never gave a line the whole time. I'm on lower depth. What does that mean? I can like specify a depth. It says 26 out of 26. Hold on. No, it still doesn't show it. Oh, well, hold on. It says go deeper, but like it doesn't actually fix it. Vedant, you said you found it, but you never gave us a line. I don't know what you're talking about. All right, so forget about it. I don't care about how to use this Light Chess engine. Let's do another one. Maybe if we can get through it. This one might be easier. That one might have been like the hardest one I picked. I don't know. Let's see how hard this one is. It's white to play. What are we doing here? We have a rook and a knight against a bishop and a pawn, and the pawn's about to promote. But Dante, you also said that you immediately checked the analysis, so if you got it, no one's shocked. Okay, so what are we gonna do here? They're trying to make a queen, so if we play some simple time pass type move, we're probably going to lose. Easy win, Vedant? How's it an easy win? Go ahead. Tell us. Blow us away with your variation. I think the answer here is probably not even about... This one's white to play. If it was black to play, we'd just be like, time to make a queen. Because there's no tactic to stop us from making a queen. Oh, Vedant was joking. We couldn't tell Vedant. It's a bad joke to make when people are trying to get better at chess, saying, ooh, I checked the computer. Alright, so anyway, it's white to play, and we have to somehow make something of this position. Even if we win the pawn, like, let's say we sacrifice our knight for the pawn, right? Like, poof, no knight, no pawn. This position is not necessarily a win for white. If black can get their king to the center, they can draw with bishop against rook. So I think the answer here is going to be a little more subtle than that. It could even be a defensive puzzle where we're just like... Actually, no, defensive puzzle... I guess if it's a defensive puzzle, we have two options. We can find a way of sacrificing success for the pawn with the knight or with the rook. Or, like, stalemate ourselves, something like that. I don't know. Stalemate seems really unlikely in this position. So, I'd start from the perspective that we're winning. I don't know if we're winning, but we have a big material advantage until the next move. So, what's the deal? We just want to stop them from promoting, right? But we want to stop them from promoting forever. So delaying them is not good enough. Suddenly I feel like I've actually solved this sometime. I wonder. Oh, I have seen this before. I'm just remembering now. I wrote this down as something for me to solve in the future, but I think I've already solved it. The idea that comes to my mind first is that if you play rook g1 check, king to f7, rook g7 check, we just pick up the pawn. So if we play rook g1 check, they're forced to play king to c1. That's the basis of it. Knight f6, if they make a queen, we play... No, we can't play rook b1 because bishop takes b1. Yeah, knight f6 forces king to... well, it's not f6, it's c3. Knight c3 forces king to c8. I'm sorry, c1. Knight f6, king c1. The reason is that if you play king b2, then knight d1 wins the pawn for free, and we could probably win with knight and rook against bishop, right?
But knight f6, king f7, what is that? Knight f6, king f7. Knight e4, maybe. Like, I was thinking knight f6, king f7, attacking the knight, knight e4. And if they make a queen, we play knight d6, fork. But they don't have to make a queen, right? They could maybe do something more intelligent. For example, after knight e4, they could make a king move. Like king e7. After king e7, there's going to be no fork. I don't think there has to be a fork. I do think that that some kind of fork or skewer or pin is going to be a central motif. We want to win the c-pawn, but we don't want to lose our knight for it. That's the idea. Melee, please. You said that knight c3 forces king c1. What's wrong with this move, king c2? I'm not sure I understand. I think after king e7, black is cruising to promote. I'm not spotting any resources here. So I think rook g1 first is precise. Rook g1 check. King here or here is met by rook to b1. Rook b2. I don't know why I'm flipping the notation. Rook b8 check was the first move. So they can't go on the 7th rank. They would have to go to a1 or c1. Drawing is easy, so I think we have to win. We can easily draw after this. Because like rook b8, king to a1, rook to... Maybe it's not an easy. Yeah, the pawn is on the f file. I think that Melee Please and I are just like tripping. Because f and c are like mirror images of each other, so we keep like saying it wrong. So don't mind us. Knight c6 is not a possible first move. I think you mean knight c3. But I don't see why knight c3 can't be met with king c2. Like if you play knight e4 going for the fork, we just play king e7. So if you're going to suggest the move, please explain the move. It's very difficult for me to understand if you don't tell me what your idea is. I'm not a mind reader. Well, I am, but not like that. I think this is not it. I don't know why you're saying yeah. You said that this has to be the first move, and I just told you why I think it's not good. Okay, so I'm still set on rook b1. Sorry, rook b8. Rook b8, king a1. What do we do? Knight f6 almost looks good, but it's not working. Oh, I think I know what to do now. Rook b8, king a1, knight c3, they'll promote to a queen. I don't think that's good enough. Yeah, bishop's guarding the square. However, I noticed something interesting. Rook b8, king a1, knight f6, f1 queen, rook a1, rook a8 check. They would have to play king to b2, rook to a2 check, king takes f6. If the pawn is still on c2, we could take it. The problem is that they can, I don't know if this is a draw, but at the very least, we need to force a draw. I still haven't found, like, an easy draw. Melee, please, if you see an easy draw, just tell me. I'm not sure I do yet. Actually, yeah, maybe it is just like that. Knight f6, king to c2. Knight e4, king e7. I don't know. Actually, I just don't see the draw still. Maybe it is a draw puzzle. Maybe it's a perpetual or something, but we need to find a threat. How is king f7 like an easy draw, Melee, please? So you said knight c3, king c2, knight d1, king takes d1, and then king f7. Oh, king h8. Okay, I see your idea. It looks very nice. I think this is the answer. Yeah, I think you're correct. Knight c3 was a good call. Knight c3, king c2, knight d1. This also crossed my mind, but I wasn't so sure about it. If they make a queen, we play knight d6. I'm sorry, knight e3. I'm losing my mind here with the notation. All right, king takes d1, and king h8 is extremely precise. The idea is that if they make a queen, we force them to take our rook with this pin, and that leads to a stalemate. Stalemate. Stalemate Island. Welcome to scenic stalemate. Yeah, this was really nice, so good job, Melee, please. And one other thing that I looked at here is that after king to e2, you can just play this, and you just take the pawn. So it was Drawsville. I was looking for another very similar idea. I think a position like this, if I could play like knight f6 and then bring a rook to h2, I could take the pawn. Even if I had a rook on like g2, it would be interesting, because let's pretend that I had like the king is here, my rook is here. I'm sorry, rook is on. Alright, I'll just use colored squares. The idea that I was trying to make happen was like this king is here, this rook is here, and in that position we play knight f6. But it didn't quite work, because after knight f6, well, it's just that I can't get the rook on g7 fast enough. By the time the rook arrives on g7, they make a queen. But if it did happen, knight f6, king takes g7, knight d1 would win the pawn. So that would have been another cool variation. This is definitely it. Easy. Let's find out what the computer says. Actually, alright, it finally spotted the draw. It took a while. I can't increase the depth any more than what I have, by the way, just so you guys know. So that the engine was also making some silly nonsense in the other position. Yeah, it's corroborating the whole line. That's it. Stalemate. Alright, cool. Maybe we'll do one more and then call it a night, just because I've got stuff to do. This is white to play. I'm going to turn off that box. Alright, last one for now. I have 4 more. We could always do it another time. Okay. How to win. I feel very much like this is a winning position. I definitely don't feel like white's in danger. I kind of want to win the bishop, but if I lose too many pawns, it's not worth it. Like, for example, if I played f6, king e6, knight c7 check, king takes e5, knight takes a8, king takes f6. We could even lose the game, although I think it'll be a draw. Just my first feeling. So what else can we do here? Maybe we could promote the f-pawn. Yeah, I agree. If it's not worth it, don't do it. Let's say we play knight c7 first. We might end up in a very similar position. Like, they would just take on f5, we play knight takes a8, they play king e6. So, I think knight c7 and f6 are ruled out unless we can do something really awesome. So maybe it's e6. Could be an option. But then they'll just take on f5 again. Ugh, it's becoming like a draw on every line. Maybe the b pawns are critical, and we need to think a little bit about what the b pawns are for. But melee, please. After knight c7, what if they just take on f5? Maybe it's a winning endgame. Knight c7. Pawn takes f5. Knight takes a8. King e6. Knight c7. King takes e5. Maybe knight a6. Knight on e6 looks a little too hopeful. They don't have to take a knight even if we can get it on e6. But maybe at some point it'll make sense to do so. So we can always keep that as an idea. But maybe it's winning after knight a6. No, I just found a defense. So after knight a6, they would play king d4, knight takes b4, king c3. And that's a draw. So it's not knight c7, because this line for sure forced gets it done. I'll just check that position to maybe convince you. I'll just put the position without showing any analysis so we can fairly complete this. Alright, and the engine says draw. Alright, so just so everybody knows, this position's a draw. So that's why I rejected knight c7. So we would have to either find an improvement along the way or reject it. Okay, so Yeatermaster says there's a line fg6, fg6, e6. I think it fails for the same reason that we just mentioned, unless there's some kind of cool in-between move. Actually, I had an idea about this thing that you're saying, something very similar. So let's say we just play knight c7, because it's very similar to Yeatermaster's idea. We're going to stick with it. So it'd be like knight c7. We'll come back to it, this move order. We take the bishop, they play king e6, we play knight c7, king e5. But before knight a6, what if we play king e3? Is that a win? Yeah, I think we're onto something. King e3. But they can play f4 check. And if we play king d3, they play f3, and then we play king e3, because maybe not yet. We would first play knight a6. They play f2, we play king e2, they play king d4. No, this is still a draw, because you don't get to keep the pawn. Knight takes b, and king c3 still happens. They just deflect you with the f pawn. So I disagree with that. It doesn't matter about the double pawns. All right, so Yeatermaster's idea was pawn takes g6, pawn takes g6, and e6. Well, here you actually carry no threat, as far as I can tell. Like, is there a threat here, Yeatermaster? Do you have an idea about this? Because I'm just not seeing any threat. Like, for example, if I move my bishop, like bishop d5, I'm just going to take the pawn. You have a one-move trap, and I think the one-move trap doesn't even work. Like, let's pretend I fall for your trap, like this. Oh no, my bishop. I don't think I'm really falling for a trap. I think I'm just getting a draw right away. So, I don't think it's pawn takes g6 or knight c7. Or if it's knight c7, we haven't figured out the reason behind it. Knight c7, g takes f5. Knight takes a8, king e6. We need something here. Maybe it's some kind of like interference type tactic. f6, I think they'll just play king e6, Vedant. It could be king e3, I don't know. If you're just rapid fire guessing all the legal moves, eventually it'll be right, but I don't know. We need to analyze to find out. Like, let's say we play king e3, right? Pawn takes f5 looks really normal. I think it'll transpose, maybe. Alright, so king e3, I just don't see what you're doing. Like, pawn takes f5 now. Or even g5, like, try to go for the win. I think pawn takes f5 is simple, since it's a study, or I'm just going to dry up the play. Pawn takes f5. I'm not seeing it. So knight d6, they'll probably take on f5. If you take f7, I think you'll lose the game. Because they'll play bishop d5 and bishop takes b3, and then just move the bishop and play b3. And that position should be winning for black, if you're down a knight. King e3, pawn takes f5, king f4. Okay. I can just give the pawn back, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, bishop d5 here. I don't mind if you take back on f5. I'll just take on b3. Probably, possibly win the game. So they want to play bishop d5, right? So I kind of feel like knight c7 has to be the right first move. But after pawn takes f5, their defense is very tenacious. Yep, the bishop again. It seems like Invincible Insights has a weakness, and it's bishops. So if you guys play Invincible Insights, keep that in mind. Just make like 20 bishop moves in a row. You'll definitely win. It could be f6, but I'm just not understanding because it gives black an extra move with king e6. It's a useful move. Alright, maybe f6, e6. I'm sorry, f6, king e6, knight c7, king e5, knight a8, king f6, knight c7, king e5, knight a6. No, it's just the same. The king comes to c3. Maybe it's not the same. But black is the one who's pressing there. It'll take a while to get this b-pawn rolling. Well, maybe not. f6, king e6, knight c7, king takes e5, knight takes a8, king takes f6, knight c7, king e5's, yeah, king e5, King e3, f5, knight a6, f4 check, king d3, f3, knight takes b4, f2, king e2, king d4, knight a6. No, knight a2. Actually, this might be a win. It might be, but I'm not sure because I don't know how we're going to put them in Zugzwang. Knight c7, pawn takes f5, knight takes a8, king e6, knight b6, king e5, king e3. Melee, please. I thought we ruled that out though. Like, knight c7, and you said so. Just to make sure. Oh, knight b6. That's different. Okay, king e5, king e3. Is this really winning? With knight and pawn against 3 pawns. What if I try to go like this? Maybe if you just don't lose the pawn, you win. That could be possible. Maybe it is a winning position. It just looks very odd to me. Alright, so if I play king d6, what do you do? Maybe knight c4 check? Maybe I'll play f4 first, like this. No, this is a draw. Just like this. Is there a move here that stops king c3? Knight a4. Okay. But then I'm still gonna get in. Like, if you play knight a4, like if you take, I can immediately show my idea. Oh wait, knight c5. Maybe it is winning. That's very interesting. Okay, so maybe it is winning. Yeah, actually, it's interesting. So let's check this out because I think I'm pretty satisfied with this, although we could analyze more, but we've been doing this for a while now. So let's check it with the computador. Alright, so it says knight c7. And if it's suggesting bishop h1, that's already pretty sad. She takes f5, knight takes a8, king e6, knight b6, king e5, king e3, f4, king f3, king d4. Yeah, it's showing a win. Okay, so that's the correct answer. So, good thing Melee Please was here, because I was not on my game today. Okay, cool. So I think that this was good for now. I hope you guys enjoyed these studies. We did 3 really hard ones, and we did 4 warm-up puzzles that were all very nice. And I'm probably going to keep doing these. Even if I'm not streaming, I'm going to be doing some more just to try to get back in the swing of things now that I'm fully moved in and I can focus on chess at least a little bit. I just started a PhD, so that's a full-time job. I'm going to be really busy. But I'm hoping to keep making chess content as we go. So you can look forward to new stuff. By the way, if you guys want to do a viewer tournament, I can set up a tournament right now. So Invincible Insights before you go away. If you want to join a tournament, feel free to let it be known. And maybe you guys could just like take a vote before we officially wrap up if you want to play a tournament. I probably won't be able to join because I have to do some stuff, but I could try.
Actually, you guys can just message me in Discord if you want a tournament. I think that's probably the best way to do it. Alright, you're welcome, Austin. A bullet tournament? Seriously? Yeah, we could do it today, like right now. Hold on, I'll do it. So you have to be in the, since we have to do it for teams, you can join this, this Coach Robert club. That's me. Alright, I'm going to sneakily throw this in the chat. Boom, that's the link. Boom, there it is. Okay. So, you guys really want to do bullet? Just a 3-round bullet tournament? Vidon says blitz. What are we gonna do, guys? Team tournament. Thanks for coming, Austin. Um, 2-minute blitz. Okay. Wait, that's bullet. Long bullet. Ensure clock time's 2 minutes. Starting position. Oh yeah, I think I have it as an arena. All right, let's just do an arena for like 30 minutes or something. All right. Maximum length is 30. Oh. There we go. Get my name out of there. Okay, I'm not really feeling up to playing, but I definitely want you guys to have that opportunity. So here's the link. It's only a 30-minute tournament. Why can't you play arenas? You can always just like leave after 2 games or something if you want. A 2-round Swiss is really weird. This doesn't make any sense. Alright guys, I'm going to close the stream, and if I'm feeling up to it in a couple minutes, I'll even play. So, feel free to join in and have a great time. I'll see you guys next week on the stream.